What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for your week number 7 NFL Power Rankings, ranking every NFL team from the worst in the NFL, number 32, to the best team in the NFL today, number 1. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now. These power rankings are about to be a bit controversial, and it's because a lot of NFL fans think of the NFL as a weekly league, a week by week, what have you done for me lately rankings type of situation. But I view the NFL with a much larger lens, a much larger scope. So, there may be teams that look like poop right now that I view as getting a bit better. There might be teams that are fantastic right now that I view as maybe declining a little bit. There might be teams that maybe the public hasn't caught up to how good they are, and I have them ranked a little bit higher than you would see an ESPN rank them. These are my personal power rankings. How I feel about your favorite team. Not any sort of stats, not any other publication. It's just my opinion off the top of my head. What I see with my own two eyes. I've seen every game this week, and we are about to rank and discuss every NFL team. So if that sounds good to you, don't forget to spike the like button. And if you are new, subscribe to the channel for weekly NFL Power Rankings. Also, spike the notification bell. This video, these Power Rankings are always live here on the channel. So I highly suggest to spike the notification bell to be notified when I go live. Because I go live a lot, guys. I like to go live. Remember, these rankings are not just about the here and now, but they are about the future. Also, let me know in the comments where you rank your favorite team, and as I rank every team, let me know where you would rank them. I also put a poll up in the live chat asking you who you think's going to win the NFC. I listed the 49ers, the EAGLES Eagles, Tom Brady, or the Dallas Cowboys. So let me know of those four who you think is going to win the NFC. But before we get started, guys, I do want to give a quick shout out to one of my new partners, that is Owners Box Fantasy. They are from the great land of Canada, as I am, and they have partnered with me. I really like what they have going on at Owners Box Fantasy. I've gotten a little bit of some beginner's luck with their lightning lineups, which I'm going to showcase tomorrow on the weekly picks video. I'm going to go through and do a lightning lineup for Thursday night football, which is the Cardinals and the Saints, which could be a good game, could also be a bad game, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Right now, they have just an awesome deal. So if you want to check it out for yourself, download the app on your phone. It's very slick. It's very pretty. It's kind of like really like cool. I like the style of it. It's got the same colors as the BLV, the blue and the black. So I really appreciate that. But it's 100% deposit match up to $500. I know the Hall of Famer himself, Bodo, has tried it out. He's a big fan as well. So make sure to check out Owners Box Fantasy. 100% deposit match using the promo code BLV when you sign up. I left the link at the top of the live chat. I left it up there. So make sure to click that, sign up, and get to it. Or download the app and use the promo code BLV and check it out, guys. But we'll get to the lightning lineups tomorrow when we get there. Okay. Now, let's rank some teams. What's going on, everybody in the chat? What's going on, Dried Ocean? Nice to see you, man. Big Al. What's up, bro? Lenny B. What's up? Big Nate. How you doing, man? Sing. What's going on? Big Al says, what's up? What up, though? Welcome to the stream. Gronk, spike the like button. Gronk, spike the notification bell. Become a member of the channel and get exclusive perks, including an exclusive live stream. The Eagles game was a lot of fun. So thanks for that, Big Al. Okay. At number 32, we've got the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are the worst football team in the NFL. There's not much else that has to be said here. I mean, they played their B game, their B-plus game versus the Los Angeles Rams, guys. Their B-plus game. And they still didn't cover. I mean, what else has to be said about that? They played almost the best they could, and they still could not cover versus an extremely flawed Los Angeles Rams team that can't block, can't run the ball, has one wide receiver, and not a very good defense. We'll get to the Rams when we get to them. The Carolina Panthers are that bad. New head coach, third string quarterback, looking to trade everybody. Literally traded a guy in the middle of a game, Robbie Anderson. Carolina Panthers are just that bad. They will be at number 32 for probably the rest of the year. Okay? At number 31, the Chicago Bears. Now, they lost that Thursday night epic football contest versus the Washington Commies. But they did look better than the Commanders. Like, I really felt like they looked like the better team. But they still lost the game. So I have to put that into account. I just look at this team and they fight hard. They're young on defense. I do think that they're better on defense than they're given credit for because their defense has to play so much because their offense is so bad. But it's still not a great defense. They can be run on. I feel like they're going to have a very tough matchup on Monday Night Football playing my Patriots. And offensively is really the problem. Like, Justin Fields might be the worst quarterback in the NFL that's a supposed starting quarterback. Like, he doesn't read the field right. He doesn't read the field well. He doesn't anticipate throws. He doesn't see people coming open. He's inaccurate half the time. He looks to run consistently without actually reading his 1 to 2 to 3. And their running game has not been as good as it was early in the year because teams have kind of figured out that they will never pass the ball if they choose between a run and a pass. Whenever it's a neutral situation, you figure they're going to run the ball. So it's just become predictable from an offensive standpoint. They're just not a very talented team. They don't have a lot going for them. They're going to have a high pick, without a doubt, in the draft. At number 30, I got the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are at number 30. They're an absolute joke of a franchise. Their owner is the worst. Carson Wentz is out. It looks like Tyler Heineken is back at quarterback for Washington. I mean, Robinson's a nice story at running back. I do think their receivers are better than given credit for, although Curtis Samuel couldn't catch a cold last game against the Bears. Terry McLaurin's fantastic, but that's all they really got going for them offensively. The offensive line's kind of beat up, still struggling there to protect anybody. They can't pick up any stunts. They can't pick up blitzes. Defensively, they've got a pretty good defensive line, especially with Chase Young back in the fold, but they've got no creativity on the defensive side of the ball. They don't really prepare well for any sort of passing game. They're just bad. I mean, Ron Rivera should be fired. Jack Del Rio should be fired. They just are terrible at coach, quarterback, and owner. And those are the three most important things you need for an NFL franchise to be successful. They have none of those. So at number 30, I got Washington. At number 29, the Houston Texans. The Texans, at least, are competitive in football games. Like, Davis Mills is a competitive, lower-tier quarterback. He can make the throws. He at least can read defenses. And Brandon Cooks can play, and Pierce can play, and the offensive line gets some push in the running game. It's not easy to stop them in the running game. Nico Collins is starting to come on as that number 2 receiver. Defensively, I think they're better than people think. They play a very simplistic scheme, but they're very young but fast, and I think underrated in the secondary. Petrie and Stingley have stood out in their rookie seasons. Their pass rush is okay. Their run defense could use work. But this is a team that just has plenty of NFL caliber players. They don't have a lot of superstars, but they have quite a bit of depth. So even when they face injuries, they're able to replace those players. At number 29, I have the Texans. At number 28, I got the Detroit Lions. The Lions, I think, will get a little bit better once they get a little bit healthier on offense, which it does appear after the bye week they will be healthier. I think they are going to have, a pretty interesting game against Dallas. I don't think they're going to get blown out in that game. I think there's a formula for them to stay competitive in that contest. I like Dallas this year. We'll get to them later. But Detroit, man, I think their offense, the way they can run the ball, the way they can protect and push around people up front with the offensive line that they have, definitely makes them competitive on the offensive side of the ball. They were the leading scoring offense before that Patriots game. Jared Goff's been playing pretty good. Jamison Williams is going to come back at some point. DJ Chark's coming back from injury. Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift. These guys are getting healthier. TJ Hawkinson. So they got pieces. They got weapons. They're exciting. Defensively, they're the worst defense in football. I don't know. Maybe they fix that after the bye a little bit. Maybe they could become a little bit better. There is the possibility for that, but a lot of it just comes down to talent. They don't have it in the secondary. They don't have it at linebacker. They barely have it up front. So the Detroit Lions, just a terrible defense with a pretty good offense, but at least with that offense, they can dictate the time of possession and stay competitive in some games. Dan Campbell's not it for me either, personally. If you're just joining, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button. At number 27, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers had a really, really awesome win versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A game that nobody thought they would win. It's a classic Mike Tomlin spot at home. Both quarterbacks playing in the game. Personally, I thought they looked better with Mitch Trubisky, but they're going to go through their bumps in the road with the young rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Their receivers are really good, and I think that's the area of the team that I really like the most is I like those receivers. We have seen Chase Claypool could be on the block. He just had a big game against Tampa Bay. He had over 100 yards. He scored a touchdown. I think it was the game winner. And Deontay Johnson's really, really good. Pickens looks to be a pretty good pick there. I still think Najee Harris just continuously frustrating. Just not as good as his reputation. I think they should give more carries to the Warren kid, personally. The offensive line hasn't been as bad as last year, but they're just not getting the same play out of the quarterback position. Defensively, they just play with hunger. They play tough. They play physical, no matter who's in the lineup. I do think when TJ Watt comes back, if he ever does come back at all, this is still a pretty quality front seven. Miles Jack's playing really good football. Cam Hayward's still one of the best in football. I really like what I saw from Ogunjobi against the Bucs, and Highsmith is still playing good football. So even with some missing pieces in the secondary, they can create some pressure. They can create some problems for an offense. Do think the Bucs helped them out with their terrible Byron Leftwich play calling in that game. But nonetheless, the Steelers found a way to win. So I'm not going to put them in that bottom tier necessarily any longer. At number 26, I've got the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, I just think, are a complete mess, especially from an offensive standpoint. I actually think their defense is a lot better than I gave them credit for. I think they're well coached. I think they blitz when they need to blitz. I think they cover when they need to cover. I think they've got some young, unheralded athletes. Their corners are better than I thought. And I just feel like they give some offenses problems because they are aggressive and they don't sit back and just take it all the time. There are going to be games sometimes where they give up 40 points to the Chiefs because they blitz every play. But at least they're going after it. At least they're trying to make plays. At least they're trying to keep their team in it. And I like that from the Cardinals defense. I like how they're coached. And I think, personally, the defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, who is having the time of his life in Denver, we'll see how Hackett, if he's having the time of his life. I think that I think he should be, not gonna. I think he should be the coach of this team. Like, Cliff Kingsbury's an absolute joke. It doesn't matter which sunglasses he's wearing. It doesn't matter how many times he gets a haircut within the given week. I mean, the guy needs to go. His offense is vanilla. It's based on Jimmys and Joes and not X's and O's. And when you get to the NFL level, you're going to have to play without your Jimmys and Joes. D-Hop gets suspended. Marquise Brown gets hurt. Cliff Kingsbury's been terrible. Kyler Murray's not been worth the money. They're just not a very good offense. They scored 9 points against the Seattle Seahawks defense, which is an absolute travesty. So I've got the Cardinals at number 26. At number 25, I've got the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks have a better offense. Who would have thunk it? Than the Arizona Cardinals. Geno Smith has played better than Kyler Murray. DK Metcalf, who would have thunk it, is actually just really good at football. You know, sometimes, guys, when you're playing fantasy football, when an absolute specimen who almost made the Olympic track team is on the board in the 5th round, maybe you should pick him. Maybe. When he's 6'5", looks like the Hulk, and runs like the Flash, maybe you should pick him in fantasy football. Tyler Lockett still can play. They're mixing in Disley and Fant at tight end. Kenneth Walker is the real deal. Holyfield. I like Rashad Penny, but Walker is a beast too. The offensive line had a little bit of trouble with the Cardinals, but I think overall has been better than I thought. Defensively, they're an absolute travesty, as I brought up. They're not getting any better. It's just they ran into the Cardinals. But I do think the Seahawks, because of their offense, will continue to be competitive in a lot of high-scoring affairs. So I've got the Seahawks at number 25. At number 24, I got the New Orleans Saints. Their defense continues to be underwhelming and overrated. Cam Jordan looks old. They're not getting that depth at the pass rush that they used to. Marcus Davenport, disappointing. Linebackers, maybe Demario Davis has hit that long tooth. The secondary, without Marshall and Lattimore, is pedestrian. And Tyrann Mathieu doesn't want to tackle anybody. So they've got problems on defense. Offensively, they were a lot better last week, and they've been a lot better with Andy Dalton than I would have ever thought. Chris Olave has been a great pick for them, but he got a concussion. He should be back this week. Michael Thomas is injured again. Who would have thunk it? Alvin Kamara is not the same player that he used to be. He's still good, but he's not electric the way he used to be. And they miss Sean Payton. You know? Like, they miss Sean Payton. They miss a Hall of Fame coach. Absolutely. So, at number 24, I got the Saints. I don't see them making the playoffs. At number 23, the Denver Broncos. They're terrible to watch. They're absolutely horrific. I want to tear my eyeballs out every time they're on primetime. But I have to be reasonable with how good they are and how, like, interesting they are to watch. So it's somewhere in between, right? So the Broncos, in terms of entertaining and entertainment factor, are like 32nd. But in terms of how good they are, they're like 23rd because their defense is really, really good. That Baron Browning kid can play. Bradley Chubb is ballin'. The front is ballin'. And the secondary, Pat Surtain, might be the best corner in football right now. I mean, he's right up there. Justin Simmons is back. So this defense is going to give them a chance. Their offensive line struggles with blitzes. They lost Garrett Bowles. That's hurt. They lost Javonte Williams. That lost a lot of electricity to this offense when Javonte Williams got hurt. I just don't think they've got enough speed at receiver. They don't separate well enough. That's hurting Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson's not the same player, quite clearly. He's just not good anymore. He's just not. I'm going to do halfway quarterback rankings, guys. I don't know where Russell Wilson ranks. I don't even know if he's in the top 24. Like, I don't know where he ranks. So, at number 23, I got the Broncos. At number 22, I got the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, I still think, they looked worse than they are versus the Patriots. I just think Bill Belichick had a brilliant game plan defensively to slow down Nick Chubb. I think he knew how to defend Jacoby Brissett. He knew what to take away from a quarterback that he drafted. David Njoku, I mean, this guy has really broken out. That guy is a special talent. I really like what I've seen from him. He doesn't have massive stats, but he's a really well-rounded, good tight end. I mean, he can run. He can create yards after catch. He can block. He's been a nice weapon. Amari Cooper has actually been really good for them. He really has in a lot of these games. He was actually pretty good against the Patriots. And one of the only guys that can make plays, Donovan Peoples-Jones, is a decent number 2 receiver. Like, I'd be intrigued to see how good this team is with Deshaun Watson. As much as I'll be cheering against Deshaun Watson, I think they're going to be a good offense. They can run the ball. They can throw it. I mean, it's interesting. But the Patriots just stifled their running game. And Jacoby wasn't able to come through. Defensively, they're really bad. Like, I don't understand why Joe Woods still has a job. Like, he's terrible. He doesn't adjust. There's no creativity. There's no, like, flair at all with the defense. It's very vanilla. It's very, like, you see what you get. Like, they just stand in their spots and they play their cover 3 or whatever. Like, they don't show any sort of disguise. They don't get after you. They don't blitz enough. They don't do anything that frustrates an offense. It allows a guy like Bailey Zappi to be a backup quarterback to just look magnificent, look like the next Tom Brady, because he can see the coverage. He can protect. It's easy for him because he's not being scared in any sort of way. There's no creativity from that defense, and there's a lot of overrated players on that defense. They've got no good interior defensive linemen. Myles Garrett's really their whole defensive line. Their linebacking core is too small. Their safeties stink. Their corners without Denzel Ward are overrated. I think they just got a lot of names. I don't think they're a very good defense whatsoever. At number 22. At number 21, I got the Jacksonville Jags. Jacksonville continues to be that young, feisty football team that I feel like can play with anybody, but can also lose to anybody. They've got a lot of talent. Trevor Lawrence can make brilliant plays. He can also make boneheaded plays. The offensive line is certainly the weakness of this football team and puts Trevor Lawrence under way too much duress. But they can run block their asses off, and I do feel like Doug Peterson needs to play into that. He needs to lean into that more. How good and how quality Travis Etienne has been. Etienne, since becoming the starter about 2-3 weeks ago, has been one of the top 3 or 4 most electric running backs I've watched on film the last couple of weeks. I mean, there's Saquon Barkley, there's Nick Chubb, and I think Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, and Ramondre Stevenson are like the next category of guys. I mean, Travis Etienne's been phenomenal for me, and they've got weapons. I mean, Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram, give them enough, but like, they're not amazing or anything. Defensively, they're just inconsistent. You know, one week they'll play really well. One week they'll get a ton of pressure. One week they'll get a pick 6. And then the next week they're getting shredded by Matt Ryan. So I don't really know how to feel about Jacksonville. At number 20, I've got the Atlanta Falcons. I do think there's a chance this team could make the playoffs. I do really like Arthur Smith. I think he's arguably the coach of the year. If there wasn't Brian Daboll, I'd put Arthur Smith as the coach of the year right now. I do think the way this team plays offense frustrates a lot of teams because it's hard to prepare for. It's hard to get a feel for. And they have just enough in the passing game with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Zacchaeus, all these different guys that they can throw the football to. None of them are really like amazing right now. Like Drake London, I think will be really, really good. And Kyle Pitts has the skill set to be really, really good, but has kind of been a ghost out there. But Mariota makes enough plays with his legs to extend plays, to scramble on a big third down. They can run the ball really well, no matter the running back, or although they're much better with Cordell Patterson because he's a freak show. The offensive line is better than I thought. You know, they run a lot of difficult stuff, play action, screens, and it's hard to defend the way that they stretch you horizontally especially. And then defensively, they just are good situationally. You know, they'll have an odd play, a turnover that they'll create, that they'll make. On third down, they'll stop you a couple times because Dean Pease will pull out a blitz or two. In the red zone, they don't make it easy on you. You know, they try to make you play left-handed. They're just not very talented. So that's the problem with their defense. I think they're pretty well schemed and prepared. They just don't got a lot of talent. But I think this team with this coaching staff, if they can continue to add pieces, they're going to be competitive into the future. And I might even pick them, next year to win this division, depending on if Tom Brady returns. But Atlanta, I do think could make the playoffs this year. I think they're right in the mix there. They did benefit this week from playing a very beat up Niners team. I will say that though. At number 19, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, a lot like the Falcons, not a very talented team, but just situationally very good. Offensively, I feel like they do a very good job at the beginning of games to script up plays for them to have success. Ryan Tannehill's been really good in the first quarter this year, and their offense has been really good to start the game, which puts them in a good position in the fourth quarter to win these football games. Defensively, they're pretty strong against the run. Mike Vrabel plays with strong fundamentals, this football team. Jeffrey Simmons is a beast. Kevin Byard can still play. You know, they've got plenty of playmakers out there. And offensively, They don't got a lot of go-to guys in the passing game, but Derrick Henry is enough of a threat to kind of balance that out enough. So, I mean, maybe they win their division. I think a lot will really lean on this matchup with the Colts because they've beaten the Colts already. Can they sweep them? That would put them in a really good position to win this division. At number 18, we've got the Tennessee Titans. 19 was the Titans. 18 was the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are at number 18, and I've moved them down after beating the Panthers, which just shows you what I really think of this team. I don't like this team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, possibly. I understand they won the Super Bowl last year. Matthew Stafford doesn't look like the same player. He looks beat up. He looks a bit fragile. His arm, it's good still, but it just, I don't know. Something about Matthew Stafford looks like he's playing hurt or something out there. The offensive line is lousy. They lost their left tackle this past week. Another piece gone. Receiving core is terrible outside of Cooper Kupp. Now, they will get Van Jefferson back. They are getting rid of Cam Akers, so they really only have Darrell Henderson to lean on in the running game. Tyler Higbee scares nobody. Ben Skoranek scored a touchdown. Doesn't really scare anybody. Defensively, they're well coached. They've got some good players. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd. Their interior defensive line is strong, but they don't have a lot of depth. They don't have a good 53-man roster. They've got 7 good players. And that's not enough for me, especially with these injuries piling up. So I got the Rams at number 18. I'm not sure they're going to make the playoffs. I keep going back to the Titans for some reason. At number 17, the Indianapolis Colts. I got the Colts. I moved them up a bunch of spots this week just based on Frank Reich's adjustments. I think Frank Reich did a very nice job against Jacksonville helping this offensive line. I think he finally figured out what has hurt them, what has ailed them, and really, Matt Ryan had all the time in the world to make decisions last week. That was a big, big plus for me to move them up in the rankings. That's going to allow Matt Ryan to do what we thought he could do. Have some protection, be accurate, get rid of the football, throw the football underneath, have some yak opportunities. I think they're starting to figure out who their reliable offensive playmakers are. Michael Pittman as a short intermediate threat. Alec Pierce is a downfield go ball, back shoulder type of guy. They've got the tight ends with some size. They've got the running backs. I really like the Jackson kid, Nyheim Hines. Jonathan Taylor will be back. And the offensive line just played a lot better, which I'm very excited about for the Colts offense. But Matt Ryan is definitely limited. There's no question. He is probably not a top 20 quarterback right now, but he's still able to use the quick decisions to his advantage, his accuracy to his advantage, get the football out to his playmakers. Defensively, they're a little inconsistent. I mean, they didn't defend the run the way I thought they would versus Jacksonville. They definitely showed signs of regression there, but Gilmore's been unreal. Buckner's still unbelievable. They have been dealing with some injuries. Once Shaq Leonard comes back there, once they get healthy on defense, I do think they're flirting with a top 10 defense, so that's promising. Right now, they look like the best team in this division. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Titans, although they have struggled with the Titans in recent history. So I've got the Colts at number 17. At number 16, the Packers. Fallen. Guys, I watched that game not too long ago, just a little bit before I came on air, against the Jets. I mean, I don't think any given team last week got absolutely butt whooped the way that the Packers did at the line of scrimmage. The Packers offensive line got their absolute asses kicked, guys. Like, it was embarrassing. Quinnen Williams was in the backfield every play. And when Quinnen Williams wasn't in the backfield, Sheldon Rankins was in the backfield. John Franklin Myers was in the backfield. Vinny Curry was in the backfield. Aaron Rodgers was under duress. They couldn't run the football. Every good play the Packers had was like a go ball, perfect pass on the money by Aaron Rodgers to one of his receivers. I do like that they're getting Robert Tonyan more involved, but I don't understand why they're taking Aaron Jones off the field on passing situations. Why is A.J. Dillon on the field in passing situations. That's Aaron Jones's like biggest skill set. They're taking him off the field. Randall Cobb got hurt. Maybe Christian Watson comes back and adds a little bit more to, that speed. They need to start to play some of these younger guys and trusting some of these younger guys because it's not working right now. And Matt LaFleur's got to figure out a way to help that intermediate passing game because it's not there. Their whole offense is bubble screens, throws to the flat, and go balls. That's all it is. And they've got to develop. They've got to get a software update. I mean, it's ridiculous. Defensively, they played better against the Jets. I thought they had a lot of pressure against Zach Wilson in the passing game. They didn't give up a lot there. But the run game, they started to wear down in the second half. They were strong in the first half, but then the Jets started to just run the ball down their throat in the second half, and they just looked soft. So the Packers, I mean, they've got a lot to fix. It's worrisome for sure at number 16. At number 15, the New York Jets. The Jets beat the Packers and handled them. The Jets' defense might be the most underrated unit in football right now. Their defensive line is vicious. Their defensive line is deep. Their defensive line is powerful. It's hard to run on them. Quinnen Williams is turning into a superstar before our eyes, and he's making everyone better around him. CJ Mosley's playing at a high level. Kwan Alexander's flying around. Their safeties are playing good. Sauce Gardner is already a top 10 corner in the NFL right now. He's locking people down. The Jets defense is playing really, really good. And they're really fast. They're really physical. And they hit people. I mean, there were some hits where I yelled out loud. Like, I was watching that game against the Packers. I was yelling. I was like, oh my goodness. He got smoked. So for me, I just love the way the Jets are flying around defensively. Now, I'm not very impressed with their offense in the passing game. They're very limited. Zach has not really done much. Their pass protection is definitely lousy. They're missing a lot of pieces on the offensive line. I do like the running game. I think that's their strong suit with what Mike LaFleur is doing. There was a couple designs there in the second half that got them some big plays. Braxton Berrios on a tricky trap run. I thought that was kind of dynamic. Breece Hall's playing really well. They've got plenty of weapons, though. I mean, they've got plenty of weapons, plenty of ballers. They got plenty of talent, and I think you got to stop sleeping on the Jets, man. The Jets could make the wild card. If this defense continues to play as good as they're playing, I'm telling you, they've got a good mix of physicality and speed. I really like it. Number 14, I got the Raiders. I know. They've only won one game. I don't really care what you think. They've won one game. They're better than most of the league. And I think putting them at number 14 is honestly a bit conservative. The last game we saw them play, they dominated the Chiefs for about 3 quarters and then let that game go in the fourth. I think after the bye, they're going to start to get better under their rookie coach, Josh McDaniels. I think the defense is getting better with every week. I like how the defense can stop the run and force you into difficult down and distances to allow their pass rushers to get to you. I think their secondary, when it's healthy, is a little bit underrated. They just have problems with injuries and depth. That's what concerns me. Offensively, they're getting better. They're running the ball a lot better. Their offensive line's playing better. Derek Carr's finding himself. As long as Devontae Adams doesn't get sued or something for pushing over the cameraman, they should be fine. Waller getting healthier, Renfro getting healthier. Maybe they trade for a third receiver. I've heard potentially Kendrick Bourne or Nelson Aguilar. I think that would maybe help them, adding a little bit of depth to that receiver position outside of Adams, Renfro. Hollins has been okay, but he's kind of just a jump ball guy. So we'll look out for that. But the Raiders, I do think are a lot better than their record suggests. That's for sure. At number 13, I've got the New York Giants. The New York G-Men are 5-1, and I've got to show them that respect. So I've got them at number 13. I don't think they're as good as their record, and clearly they are not, just based on all the one-score games they've won, all the games that have come down to the wire that they've had to come back in, like legitimately. So it's a really tough rank with the Giants. I show them the respect of being 5-1 and continuing to find ways to win. But I mean, this team, they don't have playoff talent, but they've got really good coaching on offense, really good coaching on defense. Brian Daboll and the offensive staff's done a very good job of helping Daniel Jones, of manufacturing plays to their playmakers, and Wan'Dale Robinson being back should help them at receiver a little bit more. We'll see what happens with Kadarius Toney coming soon. Offensive line struggles a bit in pass protection, but they do a pretty good job of pushing people in the run game. Saquon's still Saquon, and he's doing his thing. He might be in that MVP category. Defensively, I think they're getting better and better and better. Situationally, they're really smart. They don't give you a lot of big plays, and they've become a really good blitzing team. And that interior defensive line gives a lot of teams issues. So I think the Giants' defense is a little underrated. I think their offense just finds ways to stay in the game. And I think their coaching has been phenomenal. Coach of the year quality from Brian Daboll at number 13. At number 12, I've got the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are tough because they have Justin Herbert, who's an elite quarterback, but they've got, suspect coaching, in my opinion, with Brandon Staley in terms of decision-making and formulating his defense. His defense just scares me. They're just not, they don't stop the run very well, although they did against the Broncos, which may speak more to the Broncos than anything else. I think they're too reliant on their talent, which is why when guys go down, they're just not very good. It's almost the opposite of the Giants in that way. Offensively, I think they will be a lot better when Keenan Allen comes back, but they are still missing Rashawn Slater, which there's a lot of pressure on Herbert on a lot of these big third downs, and that hurts their offense because they're not able to push the ball down the field. They don't have a lot of speed on offense, so they're not a very vertical offense, but Herbert kind of carries them, and he's enough to have a top 12 team, to be quite honest with you. But when they have all their pieces and all their talent there's no denying that they can stick in games because of that really alone. So at number 12, I've got the Chargers. At number 11, I've got the Baltimore Ravens, another difficult team to rank. The Ravens lost to the Giants kind of by their own fault. Bad snap that causes a Lamar to panic and throw a pick, and then a fumble that puts the Giants, in position to win that game. They've had how many leads that you could argue this team could be 6-0. You could argue this team could be 5-1. You could argue this team's a lot better than their record. You could also argue that they continue to find ways to lose games. So I just don't know what to think about this team. I'm worried about their offense. They just don't have enough at wide receiver, especially with Rashad Bateman being out. They've been exposed. They've signed Deshaun Jackson, and I think that kind of speaks to what they think of their team, to be quite honest with you. Lamar Jackson's amazing, okay? And Mark Andrews is spectacular, but they just don't have anybody else to really rely on. And that could really go throughout the offense. Like offensive line, running back, receiver, like all the other positions are limited. Defensively, they're okay. They're nothing special. I thought they did an okay job against the Giants, but nothing special. So I think the Ravens are probably going to make the playoffs, but I don't feel great about them as a contender. Entering the top 10, I got the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, they survived against the Saints. They probably should have won that game by more than they did. But what I did take away from that game from a positive note was how they passed the ball more than usual. And I think that's how they have to play. I think they have to play through their receivers and Joe Burrow on early downs to set up their running game. I think they've got to play that way, the way they played late last year. They've got to, on early downs, get rid of the ball quick, set themselves up, try to avoid third and longs, try to get first downs and two downs, try to avoid those situations where defenses can hone in on blitz packages and get after the weakness of their offensive line. I think Jamar Chase is still great. Higgins, Boyd, Mixon, Hurst has been a nice addition. They've got plenty of weapons to work with. Joe Burrow's still good, although I do think he's a tad overrated. Defensively, their defense puzzled me as to why they played so poorly against the Saints, but for the most part this year, they've played pretty well. I want to say they're a top half defense in this league. So at number 10, I got the Cincinnati Bengals. At number 9, I've got the New England Patriots. And I know that there's going to be haters in the comments. There's going to be people saying, Mitch, you're biased. They're 3-3. Whatever. They beat the Browns. They beat the Lions. Well, I will say this. Those were two of the best offenses in football until they played the Patriots. So the Patriots defense has been thoroughly dominating people for weeks now. And I don't think they're slowing down. I mean, they really have no weaknesses right now on defense. They can get after you with 4 men. They can blitz you when they need to. Matt Judon's dominating. Their safety position's the best there is. Kyle Duggar's turning into a superstar. I mean, this guy can play everywhere. Their corner position, the play they're getting out of their young guys like Jack Jones is superb. They can play man. They can play zone. They've got plenty of depth at cornerback. Offensively, they're just playing a lot better as a system and as a team. Bailey Zappi's come in there and shown some upside as a backup, but I really do think long-term this is a Mac Jones team. I think Mac Jones is going to elevate this team. He's going to add an explosiveness to this football team, and I think that's where this team will separate themselves from last year's team. I think they're better than last year's team. I'm saying that right now. I think their offensive line is really, really good. I think they can run the ball just as good as anybody in football. Ramondre Stevenson is really turning into a superstar. Their receiving position is really deep, and they've got more speed. They've got more playmaking ability with Tyquan Thornton in there, Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers playing the best football he's ever played, Hunter Henry. I mean, they've got just no weaknesses. They're not weak anywhere. They don't really have any clear, defined weakness. They even stop the run really well against one of the best running backs in football, Nick Chubb. So I think the Patriots are a really good football team, and I believe in them as a top 10 team, and I think they're only moving up right now. The big game will be against the Jets in 2 weeks. We'll see where they're at there. Max should be back, but they play Monday night against the Bears. They should probably handle that game. At number 8 is the Miami Dolphins. I've got them at 8 because I've got them at 8 with Tua. So I'm kind of giving them a pass for not playing well without their quarterback. It's kind of like where I'm at. The NFL is really tricky right now, guys. It's really hard to rank these teams. So I'm putting Miami at 8 based on if they have Tua. I think they are a playoff team. I think they are one of the better AFC teams. I don't think their defense is quite as good as reputation. I think they're a little inconsistent. Christian Wilkins flashed to me in that game against the Vikings. I thought he had a superb game. They rely on their corners way too much. And when they miss their corners, they're just not the same defense. But they're still a pretty good defense. Offensively, they just don't play the same way without Tua. With Tua, they play a really good system that fits their personnel and fits their quarterback. Without him, they don't really... Mike McDaniel has struggled to adjust as a rookie coach. And you do wonder if he's hitting a bit of a wall and if they'll ever be able to recover. But their offensive line is seriously in trouble. I mean, they allowed 6 sacks against the Vikings. It was embarrassing. But hopefully getting their quarterback back will kind of settle that down. They'll get back to the things they were doing in the first 3 weeks. So I'm at least giving them the opportunity to showcase that they're still that team that we saw at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to go with them at number 8. Number 7, I got the Minnesota Vikings. They did beat the Dolphins, but it wasn't very impressive from an offensive standpoint. They stalled out. They weren't really able to create a lot of long drives. They benefited from some explosive plays like a long Dalvin Cook touchdown. Their defense, though, I thought showed a lot of promise with their pass rush, again, getting 6 sacks. Just a lot of disruption from their defensive front. I think they're stopping the run a lot better than they did at the beginning of the year. And they do have great playmakers on offense like Cook and like Jefferson and like Thielen. So with the way the NFL looks right now, a 5-1 football team with a pretty good quarterback, a lot of skilled talent, and a defense that's playing better and better and better, I got to rank them at number 7, to be honest with you. I just do. I don't really have a ton of faith in them to be a contender, but right now, I'll put them at number 7. At number 6, I got the Niners, and I know that that's kind of crazy to say because they just kind of lost to the... They didn't just kind of lost. They did lose to the Falcons, but, I mean, that's when they had 8 of their 11 starters on defense injured. Trent Williams injured. So this is more of like a projection of like when the Niners are somewhat healthy. Now, let's say they got 8 out of 11 starters on defense instead of 8 of them missing, I think they're easily a top 10 team and a contender in the playoffs because they've got really special playmakers. I mean, Brandon Ayuk had the best game maybe of his career against Atlanta. He was phenomenal. He was putting AJ Terrell in a blender out there. But Deebo Samuel is amazing. We know that. George Kittle's great still. The offensive line will be a lot better when Trent comes back, which could be this week. They can run the football pretty well, although I think they're better with Elijah Mitchell than they are with Jeff Wilson, which is to be expected. And their defense is the best in football when they are healthy. The problem is they didn't have Nick Bosa. They didn't have Armstead. They didn't have Kinlaw. They didn't have Hufanga, all these guys, right? So they're the best defense in football. They've got a really good coach, really good defensive coordinator. I think they're going to be there at the end of the day with everyone in the NFC. So I got them at number 6. At number 5, I got the Bucs. Kind of similar deal here with the Niners, other than like the injuries. The Bucs do have some, but it's more so like you watch the Bucs tape against the Steelers and you're kind of like, well, there's a lot of fixable things here. Like a lot of it just came down to terrible play calling from Byron Leftwich. And I think that will be fixed just from Tom Brady cursing him out before the next game. The offensive line could use improvement on the interior. They need to play better. They have struggled in the red zone. They have struggled in short yardage. Really, if you just look at that game and you watch it back, they were in the red zone a number of times and they couldn't convert. And that's what the game came down to. If they convert in the red zone, they win the game easily. So it's just some fixable things along with getting a little bit healthier on defense. I do think this defense, when they're healthy, is top 3 in football, but they're missing some key ingredients. They need to get their heads out of their asses. That's what I'll say. But they're still really good. They're still really talented, and I'm not giving up just yet, especially with the landscape of that NFC. At number 4, I got the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are at 4 with Dak Prescott coming back this week. I do think that Lions game's a little bit trickier than maybe others do coming up, but Dallas has a really good defense. I'd rank them just below the 49ers, and Parsons is special. Lawrence is awesome. Armstrong is good. The linebackers are underrated. They're doing their jobs. The safeties are underrated. The corners are playing feisty football. I think the funny thing is Diggs is playing better than he did last year. I think that's, he doesn't have the interceptions to show for it, but he's playing really good man-to-man. Offensively, I think they'll be better with Dak, clearly, especially in the passing game. Michael Gallup's in there now, so they've got one more weapon to throw to. Hopefully Dalton Schultz can get healthier. I think they've got what it takes to be a team that wins a 1 or 2 playoff games, maybe even surprise goes far in the playoffs. I mean, with that defense and with Dak there, as long as Dak makes enough throws but also doesn't make mistakes, they lean on their running backs. I think they've found a bit of a formula with their offense. I just don't think their offense is going to be like what it was the last couple of years. They're going to have to be more of a defensive football team. So at number 4, I've got the Cowboys. At number 3, I've got the Chiefs. They lost to the Bills, and I don't know if it was disappointing that they lost to the Bills. Like, I picked the Bills to win. I picked the Bills to cover. It was at home. It did feel like that was their game to win there when it came to the game flow for me. Like, when I was watching it, it kind of felt like the Bills weren't playing very well. They weren't playing their best, and the Chiefs still lost, which was disappointing. They do clearly have a lot of holes, though, but they've got a lot of great stuff. I mean, their offense is top 3 without a doubt, and Mahomes is right there with Allen as the best QB in football. Andy Reid's one of the best coaches in football. Their offensive line's really, really good. And, the tackle position can be exposed, though, at times. Von Miller did so in that game. Their run game is very inconsistent, which makes it, really hard to know. I kind of feel bad for Andy Reid because it's like one week they can run the ball, but they don't run it enough. And then the next week they try to run the ball more, but they're not successful. It's really weird. Defensively, Chris Jones is a monster. They've got some good players out there, but their corner position is really weak and can be exposed. And I mean, their run defense is kind of iffy. And we've seen them kind of get run on as well. So the Chiefs defense overall might get a bit better with a little bit more health, but the offense I can't see playing any better than they are right now. I just don't think they've got superb talent. They're more scheme and quarterback play than anything else. So I've got the Chiefs at number 3. I think they're probably in line for an AFC championship. I don't know if I could see the Chiefs really winning the Super Bowl. Maybe I'm wrong. At number 2, the Eagles. Eagles are the best team in the NFC. Eagles are undefeated. I've got them at number 2. Nothing else has to be said. They beat my number 4 team. The Cowboys, I wasn't super impressed with their offensive effort. But when they stick to their identity, which is their offensive line and running the football, they're really hard to stop. That opens up everything for them. That opens up the passing game to their good receivers, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert at tight end. Jalen Hurts, I still think can be exposed in a big playoff game as a passer, but I do like the guy. I think he's a good leader. I think he's a playmaker. I think he's got a lot of heart, and I do think he's a top half quarterback. I just don't know if he's special. Defensively, they're one of the best defenses in football right now. Like, they're turning the football over. They're getting a good pass rush. They've got a deep defensive line. They don't really have that many holes on defense. Their linebackers are playing a lot better than last year. Safeties are playing a lot better than last year. Corners, Darius Slay is playing unreal. So the Eagles are really, really good, man. And they deserve to be the top team in the NFC. And they, on paper, should make the Super Bowl. But, they also kind of feel like a team that could be upset in the playoffs. I can see that as well. At number 1, the Buffalo Bills. Who would have thought? The Buffalo Bills are the best team in the NFL. They beat the Chiefs on the road, which is even more impressive. They're doing it with some injuries. Josh Allen's the best quarterback for my money in the league. I think they've got enough of a run game to keep them honest and balanced. They've got plenty of depth at wide receiver. Gabe Davis making big plays. Diggs being that alpha. Knox, Crowder, McKenzie. They've got some deep, receiving core type of guys that they can go to. The offensive line's playing good enough. The defense, I love what they can do with their defensive line, the rotation that they can have. They're really solid against the run. They've got some pass rushers, some athletes up front, and they can play into the fourth quarter because of that rotation. The secondary is playing competitive, even without Tre'Davious White and Micah Hyde. Hyde's probably, I think he's out for the year. White should be back this week or next week. So the Bills, man, they just feel like that team that should win the Super Bowl. But as we know, the best team doesn't always win, right? The best team doesn't always win. So let me know, guys, what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching these power rankings. Let's quickly go over the comments and say hello to everybody and read a couple things that I find interesting. Don't forget to sign up to Owner's Box Fantasy Sports. I left the link at the top of the live chat. I will also put it in the description for those of you watching this after the fact. So sign up to Owner's Box right now, guys. They will match 100% deposit match your deposit up to $500, which is a sweet deal. Sign up before tomorrow so that we can go over our lightning lineup for tomorrow on Owner's Box Fantasy Sports. Use the code BLV when you sign up, guys. It's a great deal. Great deal. I think so, at least. And you can also, their app is pretty sick as well. Check it out. Download it on the App Store. Okay. Let's say hello to Philly for Life, who says KC needs one of them receivers to take the number 1 spot. Valdez-Scantling sucked in that game against the Bills. Juju played well. I think Juju is their number 1 guy right now. He's not really a number 1, but he's their best guy. Samuel says, are you concerned with the Chiefs' offense? Not really. I mean, they're really good in comparison to the rest of the NFL, Samuel. I don't know if they're going to get any better than they are, though. I like, just because I don't love and you might agree with me, you might disagree. I just don't think their talent is like that amazing. If I were to be concerned about any area, it would be maybe that they allow too much pressure from their tackle position and their running game is still kind of suspect. But they're as good as any other offense in the league other than maybe Buffalo. Volcano says, are you confident the Titans can win the division? No. I do think the Titans are in the mix. I'm not confident. What's up, Harley Quinn? How you doing? Jonathan says, Bucks need to really work on their red zone offense. I agree. Philly for life has the Chiefs above his Eagles. Gary says, good. I'm hopeful also the Bucks can improve their record. I think they will. I still have the Bucks winning 12 games. 11 at the worst. Caesar says, I'll give Dak another chance. Frazier says, Cowboys actually could be a top 4 team. I respect it. Yeah, I think they're 4th or 5th probably. I mean, if you want to say, oh, Tampa's better because they beat them, I guess that's fine. But I think the Cowboys have played better across the rest of the season. What's up, Asthma, Big Al? Thank you guys for joining the chat. What teams should make a push for DJ Moore? The one that I've really been saying is the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens should be going after DJ Moore, in my opinion. The Ravens have also been known to trade for some players. If I was the Chargers, I would be looking at potentially going after DJ Moore. If I was the Chiefs, if I could, I don't know if that would work, but I would think about it. Buffalo, I'd think about adding as many players as I could. Although Odell seems to be maybe more realistic. Who else? I don't know if Dallas could do it, but I don't know if Dallas could afford him, to be honest with you. I don't think the Rams should be interested. The Packers, maybe, yeah. That's another one. Tobias says, do you think Russell is done? He looks like he's 55. I do think he's kind of done. I don't think he's terrible. I don't know. I don't know what I think. It's hard for me to think that he's terrible, that he's done, because he's not that old, but he also just looks done. So physically, he doesn't look done. Like, his arm is still there, he can move enough, but I think he's got to figure out how to play at this point, because he's not the same player he used to be. Do I think the Broncos can do anything to fix their offense? I think their offense is screwed. I think it's really, more than anything, I don't think it's an offensive issue. I think it's a Russell Wilson problem. More than anything. I think it's just the way that Russell Wilson plays. I think that's the problem. Winnie says, which players do you think the Bucks could trade for? I think they'll look at Odell. But if I were them, I would look to maybe add an edge player or a offensive guard. Maybe they could look to trade for like Isaiah Wynn from the Patriots. I don't know if there's any offensive linemen like on the trade block because there's so few of them and there's so many injuries. But if they could add one of those, that would probably be my biggest get for them if they could somehow do that. I don't know if there's like a bad team that has a good guard that they could trade for. Do I think the Steelers are in a rebuild? They're in a more of a transition. Where do you have them, Donnie? I'm not exactly sure what he's saying. Oh, Donnie says the Raiders at 15 is a joke. They're actually at 14. And hard to take you seriously. Okay, Donnie, that's great. I mean, these are my power rankings, so you can make your own if you want. I know they're 1-4, but I think they showed in that Chiefs game they're a lot better than their record, and I think they're going to come out against the Texans. They're going to beat the Texans. And I think they're going to get closer to 500, and we'll see in a couple weeks where they rank. We'll see. Which, yeah, I don't really know about specific players there for the Bucs, but I do know positions. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. It's Mitch. We will see you tomorrow for our picks. My best bets will also likely be out tomorrow as well, so make sure to check that out. My picks against the spread and my straight up picks, that's live tomorrow night. My best bets versus the spread will likely be out tomorrow morning. I'm probably going to record it tonight. So I've got them written down, ready to go, ready to rock. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to spike the like button. We'll see you soon. Peace.